Chapter 12. He curled into a fetal position on the floor, shaking uncontrollably, his body racked by tremors. The phone vibrated violently beside him, a relentless intrusion. He saw his adoptive parents' number flash across the screen, then James's. He couldn't answer. He couldn't face them, not with this level of humiliation. His profound unworthiness screamed at him, confirming every accusation. He was a fraud. He was a mess. He had ruined everything, again. The world was exploding, and he was caught in the epicenter, utterly helpless, utterly exposed. The roar of the digital storm outside was a physical entity, pressing in on River, crushing him. He lay curled on his kitchen floor, the cold tile a dull comfort against his burning skin. His phone, still vibrating, still screaming with notifications, felt like a hot coal beside him. He couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The sheer horror and panic of his exposed reality had him paralyzed. His mind replayed the damning posts, the fabricated narrative, the chillingly accurate details of his past. Ireland. The realization of her complete villainy, her calculated malice, solidified into a cold, hard knot in his gut. She hadn't just exposed him, she had utterly annihilated him, twisting his pain into a public spectacle, confirming every fear he'd ever held about his unworthiness. He pictured the headlines, the angry comments, the faces of his colleagues at the hospital. Now knowing his secrets, he imagined Lakin, her triumphant smile, reveling in the public validation of her narrative. He saw Regan, her eyes gleaming with renewed avarice, demanding access, demanding money. He saw Adam, his stoic father, trying to comprehend this public meltdown, his quiet dignity shattered by his son's exposed past. The burden of disappointment, shame, was unbearable. He finally pushed himself up, crawling, then stumbling, to his bedroom. The apartment felt like a glass box, every window, every corner, potentially a lens through which he was being judged, consumed. He pulled the thick blackout curtains, plunging the room into an artificial darkness, trying to shut out the intrusive light of the outside world. He locked the door, then locked it again and again, frantically checking every latch, every deadbolt, as if physical barriers could somehow protect him from the digital onslaught. He disconnected his laptop, unplugged his modem, effectively severing his last ties to the internet, to the public storm. The silence that followed was heavy, suffocating, but the images, the words, the screaming headlines were burned into his mind, an inescapable reality. He was hunted, exposed. His privacy, the one thing he cherished, was utterly destroyed. He was no longer the velvet mask, the enigmatic artist. He was River Hayes, the exposed fraud, the broken man. The cold panic seized him, holding him in its relentless grip, leaving him gasping for air in the suffocating darkness of his own home. He felt utterly, terrifyingly alone. The silence in River's apartment was absolute, a profound quiet broken only by the ragged sound of his own breathing. He sat huddled in the corner of his bedroom, phone clutched in his hand, its screen dark, silenced. Hours had passed since the world had exploded, since Ireland had detonated her malicious bomb. He was numb, his mind refusing to process the full scope of the disaster. Then the phone vibrated again, a persistent tremor against his palm. He looked down, his blurred vision struggling to focus. It wasn't Elias Vance, it wasn't a news agency, it was Adam. He hesitated, a cold dread washing over him. How much did Adam know? How much of the public spectacle had reached him in Belgium? How could he possibly explain this? The shame was overwhelming, the fear of confirming every disappointment Adam had ever felt, every accusation Regan had ever hurled. He didn't want to burden his already grieving father, especially not with this public humiliation. But Adam kept calling, his name flashing relentlessly on the screen. River finally, reluctantly, answered. River? Son? Are you there? Adam's voice was sharp, laced with a raw, undeniable fear that River rarely heard from his stoic father. It was a fear that cut through River's numbness, a direct line to his deepest anxieties. Dad, River managed, his voice hoarse, barely a whisper. River, oh thank God, we've been trying to reach you. Are you all right? What is going on? Adam's voice trembled slightly, a palpable anxiety. We've seen the news here, the internet, the posts. Is it true, son? The things they're saying? The drugs? The mental breakdown? His concern for River's identity, for the public shame, was evident, overshadowing even his grief for Vera. A wave of profound shame washed over River, so potent it made him physically recoil. Adam, who had given him a new life, who had loved him unconditionally, was now having to witness this public humiliation, his past struggles paraded for all to see. The very dignity Adam had always carried, the family name he had so quietly built, was being dragged through the mud because of him. No, Dad, River choked, tears stinging his eyes. Not the drugs. Not now. I'm clean, I swear it. But the rest of it, it's a long story. It's Ireland. She did this. She twisted everything. He tried to explain, but the words felt inadequate, meaningless in the face of the public storm. Ireland? That young woman? Why would she do such a thing? Adam's voice was filled with a bewildered horror. Your face, River, your photo, your actual face. On the news, everyone knows your identity, the mask. You're not anonymous anymore. The underlying panic was evident in his father's tone. This wasn't just a personal crisis, it was a public disaster, irrevocably altering River's life, and potentially impacting Adam's own quiet world in Belgium. I know, Dad. I know, River whispered, pressing his forehead against the cool wall. It's a mess, a complete disaster. I don't know what to do. His voice was raw with despair. You need to call Elias Vance, Adam said, his voice regaining a fraction of its usual firmness, trying to ground them both in practicality. Your lawyer. You need to get this removed. You need to fight this, son. Your mother, Vera, would have wanted you to fight this. He paused, his voice softening, a profound sadness entering his tone. I'm so worried about you, River. Are you safe? Are you alone? Please tell me you're safe. I'm safe, Dad, River lied, his voice thin. He was safe physically, perhaps, but his soul was shattered, his privacy utterly destroyed. I'm alone. I'll call Elias. I'll try to sort it out. Call me back, son, Adam insisted, his voice heavy with fear. Don't disappear, please. I need to know you're all right. Love you, River. I love you so much. I love you too, Dad, River said, the words a desperate anchor, before Adam hung up. River was left in the terrifying silence, the cold panic still gripping him. He was exposed. He was hunted, and even his stoic father was terrified. River's phone, now back on, but silenced, lay beside him, a constant vibrating reminder of the digital storm raging outside his apartment. He was huddled in his bedroom, the blackout curtains drawn, plunging the room into an artificial, suffocating darkness. The air felt heavy, oppressive, thick with the scent of his own fear. He tried to ignore it, to retreat further into himself, to somehow make himself invisible even in his own home. But the messages kept piling up, a relentless, unread avalanche on his screen. Calls from Elias Vance, increasingly frantic, leaving desperate voicemails. Calls from Mrs. Davies, no doubt alarmed by the public scandal. Calls from numbers he didn't recognize, undoubtedly media. Text messages, a terrifying stream of notifications, some from concerned acquaintances, others from complete strangers, demanding answers, expressing outrage, or offering unsolicited, pitying advice. Kate, it was supposed to be a quick errand. Kate ducked into the corner shop for coffee filters and oat milk, still half distracted by the rehearsal notes clutched under her arm. The late afternoon rain had followed her in, dripping from her coat as she wound her way past shelves of canned soup and stacked gum display. She wasn't even sure why she paused at the magazine rack. Habit, maybe. Her eyes skimmed over tabloids and glossy fashion spreads, until one headline hooked her breath. The mask returns, who is he really? She blinked. There, in the center of the page, was a full bleed photo, high contrast black and white. The stage lights caught him mid-leap, mid-transformation, arms spread like wings. The iconic mask locked tight over half his face, that costume like smoke and silk. Kate stepped closer. It wasn't the movement that struck her, it was the stillness in his eye. Sharp, piercing, controlled, familiar. Her breath stilled in her chest. She knew those eyes. She'd seen them during late-night warm-ups and post-rehearsal pizza runs. She knew the way they flickered when he was trying not to laugh, the way they sharpened when he focused too hard. The color, not just gray, but storm gray, shot through with flicks of steel. And that tiny scar just below the left brow, faint but real. River, she whispered. She didn't mean to say it out loud. But once it was out, it was undeniable. River had always been quiet about the mask, dismissive when people brought it up. He'd roll his eyes at the rumors. But now, staring at this photo, she felt her stomach twist. It was him, the angle of his jaw beneath the mask, the way he held his weight through his hips when he danced, the tension in his hands, calculated, barely restrained. Every piece of him was a clue she hadn't realized she'd been collecting. She flipped through the rest of the article, pulse thudding in her ears. Speculation, gossip, grainy backstage photos, but None of it mattered anymore. She saw him, River, the quiet one with sharp thoughts and secret shadows. The man she thought she was beginning to understand, now a stranger in disguise. A performer hidden behind a mask that somehow made him more himself than he ever allowed in the studio. Her hand shook as she closed the magazine. She stared at her reflection in the glossy cover, unsure whether to laugh or scream. Now what? She could confront him, pretend nothing happened, or maybe, wait, watch. Let him trip over the lie himself, because one thing was certain now, he'd fooled everyone. But not her, not anymore. The magazine lay face down on the checkout counter. She didn't buy it. Couldn't. Kate paid for her coffee filters and oat milk in a daze, the cashier cheerfully oblivious. Her thoughts were too loud, the overhead lights too bright. River's eyes still burned into her memory like after images. The rain had softened to mist when she pushed through the glass doors. Damp air kissed her cheeks as she stepped out onto the sidewalk, the plastic bag swinging loosely from her wrist. Then music. It drifted from the small radio perched just inside the shop's window, tinny and half drowned in static but unmistakable. A haunting synth line, a slow, aching beat. And then the voice, low, sharp, quiet as breath. Ghosts don't haunt you till you hold their hand. Kate stopped. Her chest tightened. That lyric, that exact line. The song was new, one of the Velvet Mask's latest singles, part of the mystique, the puzzle, the myth. They dropped tracks anonymously, no credits, no face. But the voice, his voice, it was there. And that lyric, he had said it to her. Belgium. He'd shrugged, quiet. It wasn't poetry, it was his lyric. Her heart punched against her ribs. River was the mask. He wasn't just dancing under it, he was writing it, singing it, living in it. The song was proof, a breadcrumb he hadn't meant to leave behind, or maybe he had. She backed away from the storefront, the music still echoing behind her. Ghosts don't haunt you. God, how many times had he hidden in plain sight? The photo was one thing, a guess, but this was confession. Kate gripped the edge of her coat as the rain picked up again, soaking into her hairline. She didn't move, couldn't. Because if he was the mask, then everything he'd told her, every careful half-truth, every long look, every moment that felt heavier than it should, was part of it. Not just a disguise, a life. And now that she knew it haunted her, he felt disoriented, adrift in a sea of chaos. The lines between his lives, River Hayes, medical intern, the Velvet Mask, anonymous artist, the broken, haunted survivor, had blurred, then shattered. He was just River now, exposed, vulnerable, naked before a global audience. The masks were gone, ripped away by a malicious hand, leaving him utterly raw. His body ached, a deep, pervasive weariness that went beyond physical exhaustion. His mind, usually sharp and analytical, felt dull, clouded by despair. The phantom tremor in his hands was constant now, a visible reminder of his losing grip, of his body protesting the relentless psychological assault. He was trapped in a living nightmare, a victim of a public unmasking he had so desperately tried to prevent. He longed for sleep, for oblivion, for any escape from the suffocating reality of his shattered life. He felt utterly, terrifyingly alone, adrift in a disorienting storm of his own making. River lay in the artificial darkness of his bedroom, curled on his side, his phone clutched in his hand. The relentless notifications had finally ceased, or perhaps he was simply too numb to perceive them. He had silenced the world, but the silence itself was a torment, filled with the echoes of his public humiliation. He felt utterly drained, physically and emotionally spent, his grief for Vera mingling with the profound despair of his current situation. He thought of Adam, alone in Belgium, grieving, now burdened by River's very public meltdown. He thought of Elias Vance, no doubt furious, already calculating the damages. He thought of Lakin and Ralph, undoubtedly celebrating their final brutal victory. He thought of Ireland, her chilling smile, her satisfaction. He was a man with nothing left, his privacy shattered, his career in jeopardy, his reputation in ruins. Then his phone vibrated again, a soft, almost hesitant pulse against his palm. He flinched, expecting another media frenzy, another lawyer's urgent plea. But this time, the name that flashed on the screen sent a fresh jolt through him, sharper than any panic. It was Kate. His breath hitched. He stared at her name, glowing in the darkness. Kate, the one person, outside of Adam, who had offered him genuine empathy, understanding, even love. The one person he had poured his deepest vulnerabilities into, albeit with his biggest secrets still hidden. The one person who had tried to see through the fog of Ireland's manipulation. He hesitated, a profound terror gripping him. What would she say? Would she be horrified? Disgusted? Would she believe Ireland's poisonous narrative that he was truly a fraud, an addict, unstable? Would she finally recoil from the sheer mess of his life, confirming his deepest fear of unworthiness? He imagined her pure heart, her quiet strength, now confronted with the ugliness of his public unraveling. He couldn't bear to lose her. Not now. Not when she was the last thread of hope in his desolate. But he also knew he had to answer. He had revealed so much to her already, about his love, about his past. He couldn't hide from her, not when his whole life had just been violently unmasked. He needed to hear her voice. He needed to know, even if it meant facing his ultimate rejection. With a trembling hand, River slowly, deliberately pressed the answer button. He brought the phone to his ear, his heart hammering against his ribs, a frantic, desperate rhythm. "Hello?" he managed, his voice hoarse, raw, barely a whisper in the suffocating darkness of his room. He braced himself for judgment, for pity, for final goodbye. River's breath hitched, the phone pressed so tightly to his ear his knuckles ached. He waited, bracing himself for the judgment, for the pity, for the final goodbye. Silence on the line stretched, thick with his own raw fear. Then Kate's voice, clear and steady, cut through the quiet, utterly devoid of the condemnation he expected. "River, what happened?" Her voice was soft, laced with a profound concern that instantly soothed the frantic pounding in his chest. But before he could even begin to formulate a response, she continued, her voice gaining a quiet, aching resonance. I saw the post, and then I saw the name of the song in your set list from last week, the one Elias Vance put out, the one that was trending." River felt a jolt. The ghost song, the one born from his shattered Christmas, the one he had dedicated to her, the one that mirrored their whispered words. His heart hammered, a sudden terrifying realization dawning on him. "River," Kate continued, her voice trembling slightly but firm, the lyrics to that song, the chorus, says, "Ghosts only haunt you when you hold their hand." That's our phrase, isn't it? The one you told me in Berlin and I told you. The one we shared in the quiet of my room so long ago. Her voice cracked on the last words, raw with emotion. "What's going on, River? Is the velvet mask?" The words, so precise, so profoundly meaningful, resonated through him, shattering the last vestiges of his carefully constructed anonymity. There was no more hiding, no more pretending. She knew, or at least she suspected with a terrifying certainty. The particular phrase, so intimate, so unique, was the key. He had poured his soul into that song, dedicating it to her, and now it was the very thing that had exposed him. He closed his eyes, tears finally streaming down his face, hot and unbidden. The fear, the shame, the unworthiness that had plagued him for so long still churned in his gut, but beneath it a strange, profound relief bloomed. The burden of the secret, the crushing weight of the hidden identity was finally, irrevocably lifted. "Kate," he managed, his voice a raw, choked whisper, thick with unshed grief and a profound, aching vulnerability. "Yes, it's me, the velvet mask. It's me. It's always been me." A soft gasp escaped Kate's lips on the other end, then a profound silence. He could almost hear her processing the truth, the magnitude of the revelation, the layers of secrecy he had maintained. He braced himself for her reaction, for the anger, the disbelief, the hurt of having been kept in the dark for so long. But he also felt a desperate, terrifying hope. The decision was no longer his, the choice was hers. And for the first time in a very long time, River felt a fragile, terrifying sense of being truly, utterly seen. The silence stretched, thick and heavy with the weight of River's confession, a vast emotional landscape unfurling between Los Angeles and Scotland. He held his breath, every nerve ending screaming, bracing for Kate's judgment, her anger, her inevitable retreat. He imagined her bewildered face, piecing together the fragments. The quiet medical student, the man haunted by trauma, the enigmatic global artist. The incongruity must be stabbed. "River," Kate finally said, her voice soft, a fragile thread across the miles. You're the velvet mask?" There was no accusation in her voice, only a profound disbelief, a quiet awe. "That song. Ghosts. You wrote that about us? About that night?" "Yes," River confessed, the single word raw, aching with years of unspoken longing and hidden truths. "Everything. The song it's for you. It's about you, about us, about what you said in Berlin, about ghosts holding hands. It's always haunted me. He swallowed, the words pouring out now, a dam breaking. All the songs, Kate, they're all pieces of me, pieces I couldn't share, pieces of what I've been through. The rage, the loss, the unworthiness, the love. He continued, his voice trembling, laying bare the decades of his fragmented existence. The mask. It started as a way to sing honestly, pour pain without being judged, without having to face the world as River Hayes, the one who messed up, the addict, the one who was abandoned, the one who felt so utterly unworthy. It was a way to protect my adoptive parents, too, from the scandal. And then it just exploded. Elias Vance, Marcus Thorne, became a global thing. I signed contracts promising anonymity. It became my shield, my cage. The only way I could really be myself, ironically, was to hide. He explained the escalating hunt, the constant fear of being unmasked, the pressure that had led him to stop making music altogether. He painted a vivid picture of his relentless paranoia, his life shrinking to a desperate routine of evasion. He spoke of the "don't I know you" encounters, the terror of being recognized. He confessed his fear of his biological family, of their greedy exploitation, and the constant threat of Lakin's malice. I know it sounds crazy, River admitted, his voice thick with shame. I know it's a lot. I've been living a lie, Kate, a massive one. I wanted to tell you, God, I wanted to tell you so many times, especially when when we became so close. But I was terrified of losing you, terrified of dragging you into my mess, terrified you'd see the full extent of how broken I am, how unworthy, that you'd finally recoil. He took a ragged breath, the confession draining him, leaving him hollow. That's why I've been hiding. That's what's going on. He waited, the silence on the line stretching, more terrifying than any accusation. He had exposed his soul, his deepest secrets, his deepest fears. He had shattered the illusion. Now he could only wait for her verdict. The silence that followed River's confession was a terrifying void, filled only by the distant hum of the phone line. He braced himself for the worst, for the cold snap of realization, for the final, definitive judgment. He expected anger, disappointment, a sharp rebuke for his years of deceit. He expected her to say it was too much, that his life was too complicated, that he was indeed too broken. But when Kate finally spoke, her voice was not angry, not disappointed, but a profound, aching sadness. River, she said, her voice barely a whisper, yet it reverberated through him. Oh, River, I can't believe this, she continued, a tremor in her voice that was more akin to shock and hurt than anger. All this time, all those calls, all those emails, you told me so much. You let me in, and all this enormous part of your life. You kept it from me. You kept you from me. Her words, gentle as they were, pierced him, sharp with the truth of his betrayal. He had trusted her with so much, yet held back the most significant piece of himself. I know, River whispered, his voice thick with shame. I know, Kate. I'm so sorry. I wanted to tell you every single day, but I was so scared, so terrified of losing you, of what it would mean, of ruining everything. Ruining everything, Kate echoed, a note of bitterness creeping into her voice, a raw pain. River, look at what you risked. Look at what's happening now. And all because you couldn't trust me. You couldn't trust me with your truth after I told you my own vulnerabilities, my own fears. Her anger was not a roar, but a quiet, searing flame fueled by a profound sense of wounded trust. You told me about Ireland, about her manipulation. And all this time, she could have exposed you, she knew, and you never told me the full extent of the risk, that you were the one she was actively trying to destroy. River flinched. I couldn't. I was so afraid of burdening you, afraid you'd see how deep the mess goes, how intertwined it is with my past, with my unworthiness. He took a ragged breath. I was afraid you'd finally agree with Ireland, that I was a monster, a fraud, that I was too much. Don't you dare say that, River, Kate snapped, her voice suddenly sharp, a clear flash of indignation. Don't you dare put Ireland's poisonous words in my mouth. I defended you, River, remember? On that very call, when I thought you weren't even listening. I told her about your past, abuse, your birth parents. I saw through her, River. I told you I believed you. And you still couldn't trust me with this? Her voice broke then, a raw sob escaping. You trusted me enough to talk about your deepest traumas, your addiction, your grief. But not this, not your greatest triumph, not the beautiful art you create, not the velvet mask, the weight of her hurt, the truth of her words, crushed him. He had chosen to protect her from his perceived unworthiness, and in doing so, he had wounded her trust and confirmed his worst fears. The silence that followed was heavy, pregnant with the profound weight of his betrayal and her shattered trust. The silence on the line was deafening, laden with the weight of Kate's shattered trust, her profound hurt. River's heart ached with a pain far sharper than any physical. He had pushed her away, not with distance, but with a wall of secrecy, believing he was protecting her, when in reality he was just reinforcing his own unworthiness. "Kate," he whispered, his voice raw, thick with unshed tears. "Please, I know I messed up. I know I broke your trust. But you have to understand, it wasn't about you. Not about your ability to keep a secret or your loyalty. It was my shame, my fear." He took a shaky breath, forcing himself to articulate the full, terrifying truth of Ireland's actions, the precise nature of the violation that had just happened. Ireland, she didn't just guess, Kate. She posted it. She fabricated that entire narrative, the addict, the mental breakdown. She tried to completely annihilate me. She's been watching me, Kate. She's been a persistent, malicious presence in my life, trying to destroy me for months. And now she's succeeded. She chose that exact photo, that exact moment of my weakness, to shatter my anonymity and paint me as a monster. River's voice dropped to a barely audible whisper, thick with the lingering terror of the violation. She wanted me ruined. Utterly, completely ruined. My lawyer is already trying to get the post taken down, but it's too late. It's everywhere. My life, it's over, Kate. My medical career, my privacy, everything. It confessed the depths of despair, the feeling of total defeat. He was River Hayes, the exposed fraud, the broken man, the one who always managed to ruin everything. He was the one who was meant to be alone. There was a long silence on the other end, heavy with the weight of his confession, the raw pain of his exposed reality. River could hear Kate's faint, shaky breathing, and he braced himself for the final, inevitable judgment. The silence that followed River's raw confession was agonizing, stretching across the miles. A vast chasm that mirrored the emotional distance he feared had just opened between them. He had laid bare the full, horrifying truth of Ireland's calculated malice, the destruction of his identity, the ruin of his life. He had finally shown Kate the complete picture of his brokenness, the full extent of his unworthiness. He waited, dread consuming him, for her to finally say it. "It's too much. I can't." When Kate finally spoke, her voice was not soft with pity, nor sharp with anger directed at him. Instead, it vibrated with a cold, simmering fury that River had rarely heard from her. That bitch," Kate hissed, her voice trembling, but with rage, not fear. "That absolute monster. I knew she was manipulative, River, but I never, ever imagined this, to use your pain, your history, your actual trauma, to fabricate lies, to expose you like that. It's utterly depraved. It's unforgivable." River felt a profound wave of disbelief, then a strange, almost dizzying relief. Her anger wasn't at him, it was for him. It was directed at Ireland, a righteous indignation that burned through the layers of his own shame. "Kate," he managed, his voice thick with emotion. "I can't believe I fell for it," Kate continued, her voice raw with self-reproach, but quickly shifting back to fierce protectiveness. "I always prided myself on seeing through people, on understanding nuances. But she was so good, River, so insidious, pretending to be concerned, pretending to be my friend while she was actively poisoning me, poisoning us." She let out a frustrated gasp, and those posts, those hashtags, what she said about you, she knew exactly what she was doing. She knew your deepest fears, didn't she? She knew about your past with addiction, your unworthiness, all of it. And she just threw it out there for the world to pick apart. Yes, River confirmed the word bitter taste. She wanted me completely ruined. She wanted Lakin to win everything. She wanted to prove I was the monster she thought I was. "And you believed her," Kate said, her voice softening, a profound sadness entering her tone. "You believed her when she told you were unworthy. That's why you hid. That's why you built the mask. That's why you couldn't tell." Her understanding was immediate, piercing through his defenses. She saw the root of his secrecy, his fear. "Oh, River, you are not a monster. You are not unworthy. You are the bravest, most resilient, most honest man I know. To come through everything you've endured, to pick yourself up, to fight for your future, to create that beautiful music, and to share your deepest pain with me despite your terror. That takes more courage. Her words, so full of love and profound acceptance, were a balm to his shattered soul. He wept then, deep shuddering sobs that racked his body, the dam of years of suppressed emotion finally breaking. He was loved. He was seen. He was not unworthy. The sobs tore through River, raw and guttural, echoing in the quiet of his Los Angeles apartment. Kate stayed on the line, listening, her presence a silent, unwavering anchor across the miles. She didn't try to stop him, didn't offer platitude. She simply was there, listening to his pain, absorbing his brokenness, a profound act of acceptance that slowly, agonizingly began to mend something deep inside him. When his sobs finally subsided, leaving him breathless and exhausted, Kate's voice was soft, compassionate, utterly devoid of judgment. Are you still there, River? Yeah, he managed, his voice thick with tears. Yeah, I'm here. Thank you, Kate. Thank you. I love you. Always, River. Always, she replied, her voice firm with conviction. And you are not alone in this. Not anymore. I'm here. For you. For all of it. The good, the bad, the absolutely terrifying. She paused, and then, her voice gaining a quiet determination, she said, Tell me what needs to be done about Ireland, about the posts, about everything. We'll figure it out. Together. River closed his eyes, pressing the phone to his ear. The simple word, together, resonated through him, a powerful melody of hope and promise. He thought of all the years he had battled his demons alone, all the times he had retreated, believing he was too much, too broken, too unworthy. And now Kate, the woman he loved, the woman who had always seen through his masks, was offering to bear the burden with him. He began to talk, explaining the immediate fallout. The frantic calls from Elias Vance, the looming legal battles, the impossibility of maintaining the Velvet Mask's anonymity now. He spoke of his fear for his medical career, the uncertainty of his future, the gnawing anxiety of his remaining financial obligations to Lakin. He confessed his deepest shame, the exposure of his past addiction, the public scrutiny of his mental health. Kate listened patiently, interjecting with insightful questions, offering practical suggestions. Can your lawyer get a restraining order against Ireland? Can they pursue theft and defamation charges? Is there a way to force a retraction, even if it's too late, to erase the digital footprint? She was pragmatic, focused, her artistic passion now channeled into fierce loyalty and a strategic mind. And the Velvet Mask, Kate said, her voice soft, reverent. What about the music, River? Will you stop creating? River sighed, a profound sadness in his voice. I don't know, Kate. How can I? It was my escape. But it's also what's destroying me, what's exposing me. The anonymity was everything. Then we find a new way, Kate insisted, her voice firm. We protect the music, River. We protect your art, because that's your truth. That's you. And the world deserves to hear it. And you deserve to share it. We will figure out how to unmask you on your own terms, not Ireland's. Never Ireland's. Her words, so full of conviction, so unwavering, were a beacon in his profound despair. He was no longer a victim. He was a survivor, and he had a partner. He was still River Hayes, the man with a complicated past, the man battling unworthiness. But now, he was also River, loved by Kate, seen by Kate, and finally, truly, not alone. The phone call with Kate stretched into the early hours of the morning, long after the Los Angeles sky had begun to lighten. The first hints of dawn touched the Scottish Highlands. River lay in his bed, the phone warm against his ear, his mind a whirlwind of emotions, but finally, a sense of quiet peace settled over him. He was exhausted, raw, yet profoundly, irrevocably grateful. They talked about the immediate future, a landscape of immense uncertainty. The media storm, currently a Category 5 hurricane, showed no signs of abating. His lawyer, Elias Vance, the hospital, all would demand answers, demand action. Legal action against Ireland was inevitable, a necessary step to reclaim some semblance of dignity, but it would be a public, messy fight. I will, River promised, already mentally running through the steps. Elias Vance, too. He's probably losing his mind. He even managed a wry, humorless chuckle. He's furious about the breach of contract, but at least he'll have a new narrative. And your medical boards? Kate asked, her voice concerned. And your internship? What does this mean for your career there? River sighed, rubbing his temples. I don't know, Kate. Honestly, a public scandal like this, with allegations of addiction and mental instability, it could end my medical career before it even truly begins. It's my adoptive father's dream, not just mine. It's what Vera wanted. I don't know if I can recover from this. The vulnerability in his voice was raw, palpable. Then we fight, River, Kate insisted, her voice unwavering, filled with a fierce determination. You are not an addict now. You are not mentally unstable. You are a man who has battled profound trauma and come out the other side. You have proof. You have your therapist. You have your work. You have your music. We will fight for your reputation. We will fight for your career. We will fight for your truth. Her belief in him, so absolute, so unwavering, was a powerful antidote to his lifelong unworthiness. He knew the path ahead was fraught with peril, with public scrutiny, with the very exposure he had so desperately tried to avoid. But now he wasn't facing it alone. And the velvet mask, Kate mused, her voice softer now, almost reverent. What about your music, River? What happens to the music? I don't know, River admitted, his voice thick with emotion. The mask, it's gone. She took it. It shattered. Then we build something new, Kate said, her voice filled with a profound hope. You can still be the velvet mask, River. You are no longer anonymous. We can turn this around. We can tell your story, your true story, one of resilience, of courage, of a man who overcame. Your art is too important to be silenced. Your music, it needs to be heard. And now the world will truly know the soul behind it. River listened, a terrifying, exhilarating vision forming in his mind. Unmasked, exposed, but on his terms, with Kate by his side. It was a terrifying prospect, but for the first time it didn't feel like a death sentence. It felt like a chance. And us, Kate? River asked, the question hanging in the air, weighted with hope. What about us? I'm coming to Scotland, as soon as I can, as soon as I navigate all of this. We'll make it work, River, Kate promised, her voice firm, unwavering. We'll face it together. We'll build something new, together. I love you, River, truly. And I'm not going anywhere. River closed his eyes, a genuine, profound smile finally touching his lips, the deepest, most authentic smile he had worn in years. He was free, and he was loved. And for the first time in a very long time, River felt a fragile, exhilarating sense of peace, a profound conviction that he was finally, truly coming home. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with challenges, but he was no longer alone. He had Kate, and that, he knew, was everything.